All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. Anything we need to get to before we start taking calls?
We got some stuff to talk about. But right now, I think we're good, except for checking out I wish everybody could see our visual. If you are listening on radio right now,
you can watch the show on our YouTube channel.
You can watch it. Just go there and check it out now, and then you can see cool stuff like when Shannon's new bobblehead arrives.
I got a bobblehead. If I talk and it looks over, you might be able to see it if you're on YouTube. But I got myself a bobblehead made. It was a gift from one of our managers here at work, and it's a pretty good likeness. And we were joking that the hair on this bobblehead is fake, just like mine. And it's got the ARA logo showing me with my my Superman logos, and on the side, I'm on the executive committee for our trade association, and I spent a lot of time with that, and so Craig did a nice job of putting that as the underside of that. But
I don't think I've ever seen a bobblehead look that good before.
It does look really good.
It looks just like you.
And just for people to know, I've talked about my hair sometimes. It's Christophel's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but they still won't give me a discount. I love them and they love me, but I still haven't got a discount. They give me free tape every once in a while or something. But but the gray on the side
I got a free tape worm once.
I have one of those too. The gray on the side that is highlighted here, that's my real hair.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's my real hair. It's cut like a bowl if I take it off. And so this is fun. I had to bring it up here. It's going to get a permanent residence here now on the counter. Right?
Nice.
You can't see it in the frame, but when we go to full frame, you'll see it.
I have to pay for my fake gray hair.
Yeah, Russ came into my office yesterday or 2 days ago. He was bringing some stuff out from the service center. He had some of his papers and doing his work, and he walked into my office, and it was like he just came off of an adventure off of Everest. I mean, it's just
from the North Pole.
He just lots of hair, and it just
so gray.
He looks so just burly.
I was going for that most interesting man in the world.
You had it.
But
you had it.
I turned gray.
I've seen a few people that have watched the video from last week with the cockroaches, and two people that I've been with watching that video, when they saw you, went, "Whoa, look at that beard." So you can see that on our YouTube channel.
Enjoy it while you can. As soon as the Lions win the Super Bowl.
Oh, is that so it might be another 40 years?
You're going to look really bad.
Let's go to Connecticut and welcome Arthur
down
to the show. Arthur, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yes, how are you guys today?
Fantastic, Arthur.
Good. I was wondering where I could get some aftermarket wheels for factory wheels for my car. I was looking on the website you guys recommend, and it's an '08 Mercedes E350. It does not have, when you go down through it, it doesn't go back that far.
Well, on Road Ready Wheels is one of our partners there, and when you look at their said site, they have got really, really good coverage, but it's going to maybe fall short in a few of those European models,
the older ones,
and some of that stuff, because it's just
the new ones
not enough demand to make the replicas.
Right.
So you've got wheels that are bad with leakers, or are you trying to get a set to customize?
They're bent. Whoever owned the car before did something. I don't know what the heck they did. But they're both bent pretty bad, the front.
He's got options, Shannon. What we see here at our place, so we've had, when you work at an auto recycling center, you see some crazy stuff. An employee will pull in and you go, "Hey, where did you get those wheels on your Benz? They kind of look familiar." "Well, I got them from a blah, blah, blah." And you're like, "Well, how do you know?" "Well, when I was out in the yard wandering around on my break, I just measured to see how much back spacing I needed, what the bolt circle was on the wheel and the center hub, and I found some off of this car, and they're exactly the same, even though it wasn't even a Mercedes. It happened to be a Honda or a BMW or something else, but the center cap was the same, so I changed it out with a Mercedes cap, and Nobody knows the difference. Looks like a custom wheel. So that can be done.
True.
For instance, we're getting rid of the old Monte Carlo show car that's down in the bay now, I think, ready to get crushed or something. But the wheels on it are not from a Monte Carlo. They're from
an Equinox.
Yeah, but they were exactly the same, even though that Equinox was like a 2013 and the car was an 03. The bolt pattern happened to be exactly the same. The back spacing was right. The center was the same, but I was able to change the center cap in it. Not all center caps will work. You can get stick-on logo caps and stuff if you wanted, or just a blank one to go on there. But I would say if you can't locate a factory wheel that you want, and you want something to make the car look a little different, your two options are an aftermarket wheel, which is going to be anywhere from probably $200 to $500 a piece, depending on how fancy you want to get and how custom.
Right.
Plus tires, if they're a different size. Or
Yeah, I want to keep the same tire size because that way I don't have to reprogram the computer for the tire or the speedometer and all that stuff.
perfect. And then so your option would be to find something else. I'd say get on the Mercedes forums and look for the wheels.
I got a thought here. We went down that road to the aftermarket pretty hard, and people do it all the time. And you look online and you search for your vehicle, you're going to find that there'll be a listing. And when you look at the meta tags and all the things, they're also putting that same listing out there for this kind of car and this kind of car. And the technology that's out there on the web now with the databases, there are manufacturers that have websites that you can go to that make it so easy now to see what your car is, what potential fits are. It's so much easier than it used to be. But if you have a nice clean car and you have two bent rims.
Yeah, the two front ones are bent.
Okay. The better solution, if you want to keep it factory and looking that way, and our partner like Road Ready doesn't have a replica wheel, I don't want it to sound like a NASCAR race here, but there's another partner of ours here, Car Dash Part. And they have the system out there for recycled original equipment. Whoever's got this stuff in the country submits to their database. And so if you search a wheel on car-part.com, make sure you do the car-part.com because there's another website that's new parts that's similar. But car-part.com, they've been out there for years. And you search up your vehicle, you go through the make and model and the wheel size, the color. Sometimes there's a pretty good interchange. And then you'll find, okay, here are 14 people that are near me because I put my zip code in that show to have that wheel. Now, where are you from? Connecticut?
Connecticut.
All right, so you probably got some problems with corrosion up in your area, just like we do around here on alloy rims.
A little bit.
So you might change your zip code search to search from Texas or Arizona or something like that, so that you start getting results of places that have a cleaner climate, a drier climate, and those rims don't corrode as quite so bad. And you find somebody that has the same rim, you call them up on the phone, you talk to them about it, you have them send you a picture, you make a deal, you have them guarantee it that they're straight, and you buy a original equipment rim that's the same one that was put on the car when it was new. You save a bunch of money, and you fix your problem. And you buy two rims, and you keep it original. That might be the position you're in too. So,
that's what I think I'm going to do.
Yeah, I mean, or if not, if you were close to us, you could call our staff or find another certified auto recycler near you, and they'll do the legwork for you. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a little charge for it as part of the price, but they'll do the legwork for you. But that's how I'd go about it.
All right. Well, I thank you. And I have one other question. I have an intermittent check engine light on the car. I can drive it, and then I start to drive it a little harder, getting on the highway, and then all of a sudden, after about a couple hours of driving it and not giving it a break, the check engine light comes on. And it'll go off on its own and act like it's never been on. And then when it does come on, and I do give it a break and I don't let it like sit overnight, it gives me that hard start. It crank and crank and crank and crank. Then I got to let it sit for a second, then it starts right up.
You're going to have to catch that while it happens, scan it while it happens to find out what that code is, because if it's able to go back off, it could be any number of things. If it's a hard OBD2 code, it's going to stay on until you reset it or until it sees like 50 drive cycles of no issue before it goes into history. So if it's coming and going, then you're going to have to catch it. You can use one of those little Bluetooth handheld scanners or something, plug into it. Right. Chris has got one or two.
OBD link, I think, is the one I got.
Yeah,
You know.
and you just plug it in and read it on your phone. It's a good thing to have in your glove box.
What
You
year was
use it
that
on any
Mercedes
car.
again?
Oh wait,
Just want to make sure. You said older, and in my mind was creeping back. Like, is this thing's not older than OBD? No, you're good.
no. All right. Well, then I guess I'll have to get it scanned when the light comes back on again.
Yeah, or get one yourself. You could pick them up. Some of them are as low as $30, but just to read basic OBD2 codes, and because you may not have it on long enough to have somebody catch it.
Right.
And then at least it'll steer you to the system to pay attention to.
Arthur, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us. We're going to take a break. He's not going to find wheels on car dash part for that vehicle.
You don't think so?
No, I looked.
Ooh, that's a rare one then.
I think so.
I think you will.
You
There
think
are
so?
some companies out there that
You
straighten
felt
them.
pretty confident about the make model that he gave you and that you looked it up right?
Nope.
Okay.
That's a good point, but
There you go.
I got the year right.
Mercedes are tricky. Getting the right make model in there.
350?
Because if you hit the wrong
Is
make
that what it
model.
was?
Yeah, but there was some letters on there.
Is it an ML?
Yeah.
Make
Anyway.
sure you get the right one.
All right. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Okay. We're going to take
Then
a
he,
break.
then he has to buy aftermarket wheels.
When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150.
Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us. Let's go to Texas and talk to Vin. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Vin, what can we do for you?
Good morning. I have a question about oil in an 85 IROC Z. I just got the car. It has really low mileage. And I know that car has a flat tappet cam, but it also has a catalytic converter. It actually has the original catalytic converter. And I normally run a high zinc oil in older engines with flat tappets, but being that it has a catalytic converter, I'm being told not to. So I'm kind of getting conflicting information. So I thought I'd ask you guys.
Well, the zinc's not that additive is not going to get past the rings and out of your oil, past the rings and into the catalytic converter unless your engine's wearing out anyways. And those old converters, they're a bed converter, a bed catalyst, so they're going to pass air across the top of them. It's not very often that they really plug up. They just stop working.
We've seen them old ones still on cars that have been around for a long time and they're still breathing.
People ran leaded fuel through them. That was worse because you're running that lead through the gasoline and right out the pipe. But if your engine's not burning oil, that's what you get. And I know in Texas, if you pull that converter off of there or you're driving without it, you're not going to get your inspection at most stations. That's changed a lot. But, many people have cut those. I've got a friend of mine down there that, he makes a living doing brakes and exhaust in East Texas there, and they cut those old bed ones off all the time and put the new high flow converters on them that are basically straight through, and that gives you a performance boost in that car, makes the exhaust sound better, and you wouldn't have to worry about that. But I'd be more concerned with the flat tappet cam if I didn't run.
Yeah, I would definitely tilt towards protecting the engine and not worrying about that converter. The converters in those were very hard to kill. And that, like Russ said, unless you're burning a bunch of oil, it should be a non-factor.
Yeah.
Do they work? Do they do what they were supposed to, or no?
We used to run sniffer tests on those down there, and usually after about a year, they just didn't really do anything anymore. They just didn't function.
So your thought process is a new high flow converter
To get more performance out of
which
the car.
has
And make it legal.
Well, it has minimal catalyst in it.
Yeah.
They're not, the material that's used in those is not as high end as what the OEMs use because of their concerns for federal kickback.
And if it doesn't work,
And
it
it's going to
doesn't
work.
monitor it.
I'm going to say it's going to work.
Pushback.
Pushback.
Not kickback.
It's a big difference in words.
Yeah.
But it's going to be that. I would think that aftermarket high flow converter would perform as well as that old school converter potentially.
And the car
potentially. I don't have any data on that.
Right.
more performance.
And the car's
out
going
of
to
the
run
car.
better.
Yeah.
That help you out
well,
there,
I mean,
Vin?
like you guys. Yeah, it does. I mean, I want to protect the engine more than the catalytic converter, obviously. And that car literally has only 5,000 miles on it. So the cat's brand new. I mean, it looks brand new. So I don't think I'll be replacing it here shortly. I want to keep the car as stock as possible for as long as possible.
Hey, one more thing. Russ, correct me here again if I'm wrong.
Sure.
Sometimes I shoot off the handle and Russ looks at me like, no, don't say that. When that car was designed, there was still zinc in the oil.
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
40 years.
When that car was designed, it was still zinc in the oil.
That's a very valid point. Yep.
So they were
Like
already
the higher zinc content.
Yeah, the zinc was taken out of the oil in 07.
Yeah,
give or take.
that's why you're adding it to it to
Yeah.
protect it because they've taken it out of
So
the
when
oil.
we always say that they can engineer a better engine with the fluids that are available at the time that they engineer it. So when they put out these claims that this engine does this, it does this, they've done that with the most highly engineered fluids they can put in at the time.
Yep.
When that car was designed in 85, the oil had zinc in it.
So his fear of using zinc in a catalytic car is not
It's not valid. Whoever's telling him
applicable.
that.
Yeah.
because this car was designed to have zinc in it.
and sulfur and all sorts of
Yeah.
the fuel was different.
So that converter was designed to take some of that if it does happen to pass by the rings.
Well, I'd like to have an IROC Z with T-tops and
Did he say it was an IROC?
yeah, he said it's an IROC.
Oh, we're guessing color. Don't say it.
It's in Texas. I'm guessing it's. Let's see, most of the friends I had those cars. I think it's silver, or a silver variant, like the gray or the silver, and it's got T-tops.
I really, really want it to be yellow, and there was very few of them.
I'm going to go red. I'm just going to go the red hues because that
Sure,
just,
that covers them.
They had a couple. They had a couple of
Common.
them. They had a couple of them in red.
Vin, what color is it?
Well, my girlfriend told me to get yellow, but it's black. It's black with gray interior.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we actually had an 87 IROC Z that my sister and I drove in high school that was black with a gray interior. I know it. That one had a 350 in it, though. Your 85's got a 305.
Vin, thanks very much for the call. That's good. That's good news for Vin. I mean, I feel like that's a good, you want to put that in there and not worry.
I have a 99 Trans Am. I have an 89 Trans Am. They both get oils that have zinc in them, bought specifically for those, and I don't even think twice about it because I'm going to protect the engine at all costs.
866-594-4150.
You know, those old converters, I can picture one. You can picture one.
They call them bread loaves.
Chris is thinking, yeah, it's like a big pancake, Chris.
Yeah.
The top half is open. The bottom half has a bed of catalyst that the air flows over the exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
They had a plug right in the bottom of them. Remember those, Shannon?
I forgot that.
Yeah, they had a plug in the bottom, and a lot of them, the plug was gone, and there was a little cap welded over it, or the plug just
Was gone.
fell out, and then it would go on. So I remember in emissions testing down there, the emissions test in Texas at the time, I think all the time, it consisted of the inspector looks under the car and says, "Yep, it's got a converter." They didn't care if it had a plug. They just said it's got a converter on the car, period. Air pump cars had to have an air pump on them. But yeah, this car has 5,000 miles. I'll bet it still has its catalyst. But if it had much more than that, I bet that plug had been removed at some time and put back in.
That car is a Berkeley Classic. So for
yeah.
sure, they're coming strong. You watch the values are climbing. So check with them for your collector car insurance.
Berkeley One Classics.
They're a partner of ours, and they do a great job. Russ and I use them for our own stuff. So
Let's talk to John. You're on the Under the Hood show. John, what can we do for you?
Hi, I'm from Tracy, Minnesota, and a couple questions. I have a 2015 Chevy Silverado. I use it kind of half the year, and then I keep it away from the Minnesota winter. Do I need to change the oil before I put it in storage or after?
Just regular oil changes, just straight out, whatever that happens to be. If you're halfway through an oil change, you're fine putting it away. If you're at the beginning of it or the end of it, you're good. But if it's due, like if today it's due and you say I'm going to put it away tomorrow, I'd change it. You get ready for spring.
and we always talk about it. Just
Okay.
check it over. Make sure that oil change is on interval, and it's good because you're talking about a short period of storage, 6 months or something like that. I don't know what the weather's like, the winter's like.
Right.
Last year it probably seemed like 8 months, but if you take and do that, drive the vehicle, warm it up, pull it in where it's going to sit, and park it, and let that hot oil cascade down things, and just let it be. Put a battery tender on it to
Don't
keep the
start
battery
it.
up. Don't start it unless you're going to take it for a long drive where it's going to get heated all the way through a heat cycle again, and call it good.
John, stay right where you are. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get your second question on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Make a radio appointment each week to hear the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch the show and you join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Bridget Kleinsasser. That is a lot of name, isn't it?
I like that name. Reminds me of
A lot of
Kim
letters to
Kleinsasser.
write.
He was a stud.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations from our friends over at Universal Technical Institute. Go to a warmer climate right now and get your automotive training. It'll be warm most of the year.
Mhm.
Orlando? Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I would this week I'm thinking marine mechanics. Let's check out marine mechanics in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
But you could check out automotive, anything you want. I mean, a CNC machine.
They have oceanside campuses too if you do marine.
Do they have a program where you could go to both and learn how to fix a mechanical shark?
That's a good question.
If it had an outboard in it, you probably could, or
I
a
think they use
marine
electric
engine.
servos now for the mechanical
I think
sharks.
you'd spend more time at the mechanical side than the marine side for that, probably.
Probably, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You just put a drone in a mechanical shark and use it as it could be can you fly a drone underwater if you can encase it right?
They have underwater drones.
That'd be a
That's a
submarine.
good point. That's a good point. They have
Yeah. They do. They just do a different kind of flying.
Now I'm into mechanical shark.
That's what Chris is going to get. First a dead bull hammer. Now
yeah. If anybody's got a mechanical shark they're not using anymore.
If we're going to get an old studio prop, like a 20-foot Mako or something.
Okay.
It shows up in the parking lot on a trailer.
Somebody on the news the other day had made an amazing snow shark.
Yeah.
Did you look that up on Google when you got some time? It was crazy how good it was, and they made it like a snowman, but it was this shark.
Sure.
It made the national news.
Mechanical sharks are fun, especially when you see them a live thing, like when people are actually in the water and they throw them in a lake and they're not smart enough to know that sharks aren't in lakes like that size. A great white shark swimming around a lake is just not normal.
You don't want to be wrong on that, though.
You don't want to be wrong, but it's funny to watch.
If it's in there, it's really PO'd.
Let's.
It might have a last bite in them.
It's got one gasp. Let's go back to John. John, did you have another question?
Yes, I first wanted to say I love you guys. I'm 75. I've been listening to you forever. My dad was a mechanic, and I never learned a damn thing from him. But you guys are amazing. And I kind of had a dream fulfilled. I was in Branson after Christmas, and I was in an ice cream shop with my wife, and by chance we sat and had ice cream, and I had ice cream with Russ and his beautiful lady, and it turned out that my wife grew up like 5 miles from where his mother-in-law is right now.
My goodness.
And John,
this will blow you away.
Can I just
here.
jump in for a second? You were a high school teacher, yes?
Yes.
My morning show partner on my day job at KTWB was one of your students. He grew up in Tracy. He saw the picture of you and Branson with Russ, and he was like, I know that guy.
That is
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know this.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Oh,
Well,
I love it. I
it was-
love
I
it.
can't tell you how much I respect you guys and listen to you. I'm a runner, and I plan my Thursday and Saturday morning runs around listening to you on a headset while I'm running in the middle of nowhere. But you guys are the best.
That's
I
wonderful.
appreciated
Thank you,
meeting
John.
you down there, and it was amazing doing that. I met a couple people there as well from Branson that also listened to the show, and the great one was the Clay Cooper Theater there. They've got Clay Cooper does a show, but he also does a morning show with his wife on the radio station, and he says, "Oh yeah, Under the Hood. Yeah, you guys used to run on the spot that we're in on Saturday mornings. We've been on that spot now for about 5 years." I said, "Well, gee, yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for
Yeah.
taking our spot, but more power to you."
Well, you
That was
had
great meeting you, John.
you had a second question.
My question was, I have a 2008 Pontiac G6. It's been a wonderful car. Got 230 miles on it. It never, ever let me down. But the other morning when it was 15 below zero, I went out, started it right up. I went into the house, and it was running when I left, and I came back, and the car wasn't running, and every dash light in the world was on.
Mm-hmm.
And I restarted it a couple days later, and the same thing happened. Have I damaged the car forever? I don't know what to think. It's almost like saying it had enough.
No, it's just probably got a running tune-up issue when it's cold, so it dies, and of course all the lights are going to pop on when that happens. But it's probably just got it's got dirty throttle body or an idle air control that's not working properly. You might
something electrical that could be damaged forever.
No,
right?
I don't think so. I would get some barium and B12 chem tool, spray it in that throttle body to clean the throttle body. If you're not sure how to clean the throttle body, you can watch a video on YouTube. And then after that's clean, we disconnect the battery for 4 or 5 minutes, hook it back up so it'll reset itself when it restarts. And that may get it to idle when it's cold. We're seeing so many things with the cold we've had lately that for us as mechanics is perfectly normal. We expect it to happen. It doesn't shock us that it's happening. But people are shocked all the time when either they're young enough that they've never experienced it, or two, their other car that they had worked just fine,
Right.
or three, there wasn't dirty enough to begin with to make it happen, but now they've got a new cold snap, new things are happening, so we're getting these calls all the time, and we assure them, don't worry about it, it's probably something minor, let's check it out. Main thing is batteries. How many batteries are just failing?
Just bad.
They're just weak, so the cold cuts off some of their deliverability.
John, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That is the cold snap we had was intense, and I've say this all the time. I say I can't believe that we have cars these days that just start when it's 10 below and when it's 100 and above.
It's amazing.
But
It was
even this
longer
last one,
and colder,
my house was like, I'm not sure about
popping,
this.
banging.
Yes.
Did you have a huge crack at some point during the last week? Oh, I had one.
Yeah.
I thought somebody had set off a cannon behind my house.
Yes.
Like, what in the heck was that? It just boom.
And my neighbor has a large trailer that they're loading, they're moving, and it always sits out there. And when it gets cold, it does that, and it sounds like someone's hitting it with a sledgehammer on the side. And there were noises I could not. Yeah, it was so cold. My house did not even like it. The doors were acting funny. The dog was not thrilled. This was
Go outside.
a cold
No.
one, man.
Go outside.
Try to be a dog and pee on one leg.
No
You're trying to
kidding.
keep the other one in the air.
Yeah. Let's talk to Jerry in Pennsylvania. Jerry, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Hi, guys. I have a 2009 Toyota Vensa with the 3.5 engine, and I can't seem to get a radiator hose to stop leaking. And I'm going to put OEM hoses on it, and I was wondering, do you often put a sealant on there, like a Permatex or a Hylomar, on the one that's leaking?
Never. I've never had to do that to get one to stop leaking. Well, that had a good hose and a good radiator, or a good hose and a good thermostat housing, or whatever that hose is attaching to. Now, I had some questionable vehicles at times in my life where I did put some Permatex sealer on the hose and tightened it up with 2 or 3 clamps and maybe some duct tape, just trying to get it to stop leaking.
Anything that would stop a leak.
But I knew that if I just replaced the radiator instead of trying to bend the flange straight, because it just couldn't get it. It had been bent once, and I straightened it out.
I can see it. I can feel it.
Couldn't get it right. It was copper, and it just wouldn't seal. And finally, a very smart old man who was probably only like 55 at the time.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
He
those
took
guys.
a big socket and he stuck it in the neck of the radiator and tapped it lightly a couple times with a dead blow hammer, Chris. And it made it round again. I went, oh, who'd thunk? And then it never leaked anymore with the same hose I was using. So,
Okay.
Where is your leak occurring?
Yeah, I was going to say, where's this
exactly?
connection at?
So this is coming off of the thermostat outlet. So that's aluminum, machined aluminum. It's a new Denza radiator that's about 6 months old, and that one's not leaking.
Okay.
It's just up at and I've checked the cap. It's relieving pressure, so it's not like it's overpressuring.
Okay.
The recovery tank seems to work. It fills and pulls back in, so the vent's working. But it'll, I tighten up the clamp, and it's good for a couple of weeks, and then, there's the pink spot.
If it doesn't,
I'm going to go get the OEM. Pardon?
So if this, you're doing exactly the right thing. If the radiator hose is new and it still leaks on that housing, I would get another outlet housing for them. They're typically not very expensive, and they're available quite often at most auto parts stores. That's something that we replace
Get it.
a lot because they corrode or they warp or they crack, or it might have a small crack in it.
It could have a
that you
pinhole in
cannot
it or
see.
something in that aluminum casting.
Yeah, you just never know. I mean, the stuff is cast these days. I bought a water valve for my house. It was brand new. I put it on the line, turned it on, and it leaked right out the body of the thing. And I looked at it and I went, there's not a mark on it. Where's it coming from? And even with a magnifying glass, I couldn't see it, but it was seeping through. So you just don't know what you're going to get. So if that casting is porous, it may just be leaking through it. Now, your other choice is
K-Seal Ultimate.
Yeah, if you can't get this thing to stop, there is nothing wrong with using K-Seal Ultimate in there. That K-Seal Ultimate will stop current leaks and prevent future leaks of this kind easily. It will take care of that. And if you have another porous spot on that block or head or anywhere in the system, the radiator, it will take care of that.
And we're assuming this is a fairly small leak by what you've described.
If it's just a pink drop on there, I guarantee you that will seal that up. And they guarantee it too, or your money back. I actually had somebody the other day that
so that's
got their money back.
okay. And that's K-Seal?
The letter K dash SEAL. And it can be found pretty much everywhere you can buy automotive.
And you kind of have to
stuff.
throw out what you learned as a kid about radiator sealants these days.
'cause
But you also have to be aware because some of them still are the same, right?
Oh yeah, there was some garbage out there in the past, and there still is.
Mhm.
K-Seal is a completely different product, but some of that old stuff was literally just like, anything
And
you can
in
imagine.
some ways, it
Bubblegum.
was,
I don't know.
if you used it, you needed it, so it was okay, but it
It worked by clogging.
Yeah.
A lot of the old stuff worked by clogging, and
Mhm.
clogging is not good. You don't want to clog the system up. So
We're going to take a quick break. Thanks very much for the call, Jerry. 866-594-4150. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Now let's talk to John. You're on the Under the Hood Show. John, what can we do for you?
Hey, I got a 2009 Dodge 2500 6.7 diesel, and I had a hard time starting it during that cold snap. And once I got it started, the thing knocks really bad at low idle. I can bring it up to 2,000 RPMs, and it'll smooth out and run fine. But when I let up, it dies.
it sounds like it's gelled up. Sounds like the fuel's froze up in it. Which is very possible. If you had a hard time getting that thing to start, and they use intake heaters on those, and then
And we should say, in our area where we do the show, it was 20 below, and it has not come up above.
No, and we're going to dip back down to
15, yeah.
25 before this weekend coming
So
up.
if it did gel, it would stay that way, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, it won't until it takes longer to warm it up than it does to get it to gel in the first place. And the fuels gel because of waxes in them with the number 2. The number 1 is going to be free from that typically. But here's what happens and what I've seen personally around this area. Because it was warmer longer, some stations, not all of them, but some waited longer to get their blends.
Mm-hmm.
The blended fuels, some of them are not they're not prepared to be as low temp. So you've got to use the correct amount of additive in them no matter what. But even the number 1, I have noticed a few of the places that I frequent for my diesel fuel, the number 1 is dropped into the same tank that is premium diesel in the summer. So this tank may have had 3,000 gallons of premium left in it, and then they filled it up the rest of the way with number one, and they labeled it number one. Several people I know of for sure that use that fuel gelled up. And they were saying, hey, I got straight number one, so you may have some fuel that's a little gelled. Cloudy, if you pull the fuel filter off and look at it, you'd see if it's cloudy.
I use power service every time I fuel up. I drop some 911 in it, and this sounds worse than a cold start. I'm just right outside Garrettson and Sherman.
Okay, then you're cold enough. We got a number of diesels at our place right now, and we've had a variety of different things. A lot of them were gelling up customer vehicles, and there are some failures in other ones they've had where we've just had fuel delivery problems. Injectors have failed and things when it's gotten this cold, pump issues. But the first thing I would do in your area, you're going to be warmer next week in the 30s, and that'll start if you've got 911 in there. It doesn't. Sometimes if it's really cold, it doesn't help out quickly. It's got to be in there a while and get run through the system. So if you can get the vehicle to run like you have above idle where it's smoother and quieter, run it so that gets mixed throughout the entire system, and then let it sit. And once it hits up to those 30-degree temperatures, see if the problem's gone away and it's fixed. If it is, then you had a gel problem. And let's cross your fingers for that, because I do have one of our vehicles we had to have towed last week because it gelled up, and it was using some fuel that I thought was straight number one, which probably wasn't, because the fuel is cloudy in the filter, and it sounds like yours. It hammers at low RPM. You raise it up and it's quiet.
John, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Bill. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Bill, what can we do for you? Bill, are you there? All right, let me put Bill on hold, see if we can get him back, and we'll talk to Jeff. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jeff, what can we do for you?
I'm dealing with a 2015 Silverado 2500, and I have a service park assist system, light come on the dash, and I also noticed that I have no license plate light.
Oh,
what's the light that
this Shannon just perked up?
Service.
He's got a service park assist light.
Okay, and
he has no
trailer
license plate light.
Yeah, he's got a problem back there with his wiring harness in the bumper and back rear frame somewhere there, and you need to probably get underneath there and look, and you're going to find either some corroded wire ends closer to the connections or a ground issue back on that frame and that rear harness. You might have to drop the spare tire.
Where the little box is.
Yeah, you might have to drop the spare tire out of the way to get a good look at things back up in there. And
they've had a water intrusion problem on those harnesses.
Yeah,
on both the trucks, right where it uses the same connector on that truck as it does on the Acadia, and the Acadia had a recall for a while on that plug-in. It would corrode, so you had to replace one end of the connector and then the entire harness for the park assist and everything on the back. It's a very similar part, but the salt and corrosion gets inside of there and makes that bad. So if you pull that connector apart up under the bumper, like Shannon was saying, and it's got any kind of rust in it, you're going to have to. You could try to clean it up.
Yeah, sometimes you can get in there and kind of file away at it and get everything cleaned up, put some dielectric grease on there, and it'll work.
Keep the water out.
Work for a while. But my guess is that those are completely related.
Yep, I assumed they were, and so I immediately went to possibly a bad body control module because it's multiple symptoms. But
no, it's probably as simple as some wiring issue back there with the corrosion and the abuse that they take up there in that rear end in our part of the world.
That's good news, right? I mean, that's what.
Yeah, it could be a cleanup fix to get it at least going, and then monitor it to see if it comes back again. At least you know where the problem's at if you need to buy a harness and replace it or anything. Assuming that's where we're at,
right.
You got to start there because it's not going to cost you a lot of money, and you got to put that to bed first before you start buying parts.
And he might, like you said, he might go there and go, oh, here it is right here. Here's the problem.
I hope it stands out. He can just see it.
Jeff, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. 866-472-4150. Let's talk to Shiloh. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hi, gentlemen. I'm new to the diesel game, and the other day, I think it was Saturday, I got my truck out, ran it for about 2 hours in the morning, and it was fine. Plugged in all night and all morning, and then I went to go drive it after it sat unplugged in my driveway for about 2 hours. I made it 20 minutes down the road, and then it just, my RPMs went up and down, and she shut off on me. And I had to kind of sit in the road for a little bit, put 911 in it, sat for another 20 minutes, cycled the engine a few times. Wouldn't crank right away, but eventually it did crank towards the very end. Got to start. It did that process of dying on me and then not starting and then starting probably 3 or 4 times. And I noticed whenever I got on the gas is when it would die.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just a gelling up issue, or?
That sounds exactly like what it is. So what happens is as this fuel starts to cloud, you've got, it's in one area of your tank is where it starts, and then it just kind of spreads its way around like a virus in there. And as you drove down the road, it was pulling fuel out. It was fine. But then it started pulling gelled fuel out, and then it died.
It was like Jell-O.
Yep. And then it's wax. It's Jell-O wax. So then you put this 911 in there, which is supposed to help with that most of the time. Sometimes it's, a way to know what number to dial when you're on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's starting to thaw it out, you've still got to run it. People sometimes don't realize, especially if you're new to a diesel, that if you thaw out the tank, your line's still frozen, and so is your fuel filter. So a lot of times you've got to pull the fuel filter off, dump some fuel out, put some of that thaw stuff in there.
Do you hold it in your hands and breathe on it?
That'll work too, but no, not really.
Okay.
You're gonna be breathing a lot.
Mix it up, put it back on, but you've got to get the fuel flowing again.
Put it in your pants.
I put it under my arm.
The stuff in it, it's gotta be moving. Using drain cleaner in your drain, if it doesn't reach the clog, it won't. It's just going to sit there and do nothing. So you've got to reach the clog with whatever you're putting in there. In our vehicles, we're using the Justice Brothers anti-gel in the fuel. We've got some customers that buy it by the 5-gallon bucket, and we start before it's gelled up and put it in. If we put it in after it's gelled up, it won't work until the fuel is thawed out again, and then it's working.
Mm-hmm.
It can be in that fuel, but it's gelled up. It prevents it from happening. It doesn't
reverse it.
Yeah. And the 911 does a fair job of that, but it doesn't. It's hard. Yeah, it's still hard. You've got to prevent it at the beginning. But when it gets this cold, some people with these older, when I say older diesels, I mean anything that was like pre-late 2000s when we went to these super high direct injected rails. They'll have, if they got a metal fuel tank, I've seen people get the metal magnet heaters that they use on engines and warm up their tanks and in the engine just to try to keep the fuel from gelling.
Thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That will do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturdivants. Hour 2 is coming up.
You're listening to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show with the Motor Medics, Shannon Nordstrom and Russ the Super Tech Evans. Shannon is an ASE engine and parts specialist, and Russ is an ASE Master Certified Technician with extensive factory drivability training. Join the Motor Medics for fun and free automotive advice with real-world solutions to everyday automotive problems. The Under the Hood Show is heard weekly on this and other great radio stations across the U.S. Find out how you can participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
With Russ Evans, this is Shannon Nordstrom, thanking you for tuning in to the Nordstrom's Under the Hood Show. Have a great day, and remember, PTLA.
The opinions heard on this program, based on the many years of experience of Russ and Shannon, are offered for entertainment value only and as a guide to your repair needs. No claim to repair or cause is given or implied. Always consult with your own certified technician and follow all safety procedures before attempting any repair. To be a part of the show, call 866-594-4150. Under the Hood is produced by Prairie House Productions. All content is the property of Nordstrom's Automotive Incorporated and may not be used without our permission. Copyright Nordstrom's Automotive, Inc. Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. And I want to take a quick second here and say, if you're listening to the show, however you're listening to the show, if you've never watched the show on our YouTube channel, we have a portion of the show each week, usually, that is the after show where we take a few more calls, we talk about stuff.
Gets crazy.
And last week, we talked about a trip that you took to Hawaii, and it was about the rental car situation that I want to encourage everyone to go listen to.
Something bugged me about that.
And we've even put up an edited version of just that call or just that segment if you want to go check that out.
We do. It's an edited version of the entire segment, so you get the gist of it, and you'll just die. Chris was busting out.
My gosh.
And everybody that's watched it, that I've watched it with, has just laughed. But then there's a link on the end of the one that's a few minutes long that's to the actual video that he took with his cell phone of the vehicle. And then from that video, there's a link to the other one. And Shannon, there was a comment this morning that said, we've run into this problem before. Those roaches, there must have been eggs all over that vehicle, and they're probably on your luggage, and you probably brought them back home with you to Garrettson, and you're probably going to have roaches all over your house, and your kids are going to have them, and what are you going to do?
I've had people tell me that I was going to die when I took care of a bat, too, so I've survived that. I'll survive this. But, yeah, you need to watch that. I didn't realize until I watched it again how goofy it was. But on this, I'm not going to go into it.
The Taco Bell comment is the best, though. You got to see that.
You got to go watch it. But the Under the Hood Show on YouTube.
Yeah.
But during that trip, my future son-in-law asked for my daughter's hand in marriage. And this is so awesome. We're excited for Max Nielsen and Madison Nordstrom. They're going to get married at some point. But that was on the same trip where he asked. But I'm going to remember that forever. When he came and asked me, and we were actually on a beach, and he had told me he wanted to talk to me. That was very exciting. But I still think we're going to remember the cockroaches. Yeah. Talking about being memorable.
That's going to be the thing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the best after show we've ever had. It's just...
And watching it, I
don't oversell it. It's funny, but it's.
I'm laughing so hard rewatching it. You should go check it out.
You should have been there when it happened.
Oh God!
The combination of screaming and laughter was intense.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Gene in Virginia. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Gene, what can we do for you?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I don't know if I can top this, but here we go. Our school has a 2003 Ford E450. It's like a shuttle bus that we use for our sports teams. And the last couple of times that I've driven it, it's been, colder here last few weeks. And when I start out, now click and clack, they used to have the callers, try to make their sound. Well, I'm going to try, don't laugh at me, but it'll start out and, you'll have that good, sound with power. And then it'll go for a little bit. And it seems that the power dies away. It'll stay like that for maybe 10, 15 seconds. And then it comes back, the power. And now, after the engine is warmed up, we're down the road, let's say 10 miles or so. I don't experience that anymore. So I'm just wondering. I know very little about diesels, except that I don't want to know anything about them. But I was just wondering when I take it into the shop, what I can try to describe to the guys.
Well, I'd say you go in there and you say it goes, and then it goes, that would work.
Or they could come out and listen to it.
Yeah. That's the best thing. Like Shannon says, you get them to get in the vehicle as you drive it and try to, figure out, do this a few times, figure out exactly how you push what, where, and drive what.
You might have to leave it with them.
Yeah.
So they can start it in the morning.
So that that they can see it. So if you can duplicate it and maybe even drive it for them while they're with you riding in there so they can hear that noise, it's going to be a lot easier to find. I've had customers, they're so frustrated when I say, I've tried everything that we normally try. We didn't just go start it. We drove it. We tried it over bumps. We tried it in town. We tried it out of town. We tried it fast, slow, cold, hot, all these. Let it sit for a while and then drove. We did all these things, and it still doesn't make the noise. And then they come out and say, well, it's not doing it now. Mm-hmm. But other times, so I've had them come out and immediately they can get it to make the noise.
Yeah, if you're on point on how you can make it happen, that makes the technician so happy. You're not wasting anybody's time, because then it becomes one of them like, oh, it usually does it. Let's try again. And then your next thing you know, an hour later, you still haven't figured out. You got to be able to duplicate it for sure. Is it happen when it's gotten colder out now, you're saying? Or does it do it all the time?
Yes, it is. No, just when it's gotten colder. And the problem is there's no rhyme or reason. I mean, I'm just driving down the road steady, no change as far as accelerator or anything like that, and it'll kick in and out. Is there a wastegate, or is there something that diverts from, I'm assuming that there's a turbo on this thing?
That's a diesel, right? I'm assuming this is a 6-liter diesel.
Yeah, there's a turbo in it.
Diesel.
Was it 7.3 diesel?
Yeah, 7.3
Oh,
diesel.
Good for you. You're very happy you have a 7.3 diesel in that van. Keep it.
Yeah, that's a good. That's still a good strong.
Or you got to get clear up to like a 2012 van,
right?
You're gonna get more reliability out of that 7.3.
That at idle, when you're stopped, it's gonna close that wastegate to heat up the engine, and it's gonna idle up faster as well. To make that thing work. The newer ones they change with the variable geometry turbos, and there's all sorts of different things they can do to make them work by moving the plate in there. But going down the road, that noise, I mean, it could be caused by even something like a bearing on the front of the engine, an AC clutch or something. If you got it in the defrost mode and it's warm enough under the hood temp in order for that to kick in, if the pressure's high enough, that could be.
But did he say he's losing power a little bit or not?
Right. There's a distinct loss of power when this sound comes. It sounds like air is escaping someplace, and then something goes off, and then the power is restored.
That could be a problem in the wastegate on that turbo. The way you got a sensor going out or something, it's causing it to turn on and off.
How cold has it been?
Well, for instance, 2 nights ago we left out here, and it was right at about 25, which I know is not cold, but I mean it's colder for this reason here in Virginia.
Oh yeah.
But
we put a minus in front of that.
No, I was just trying to think if he was getting cold enough or he was having fuel problems. No, he's not.
No, they haven't. Yeah, I mean they get cold out there, but in that area,
that's not our kind of cold.
I've been watching the national news and seeing where people are getting, and there are some areas getting really cold. I've had friends ask me in Texas, "Am I going to gel up?" And I'm like, "It's only going to get down to 15 tonight, and it's going to be for a few hours. You're fine." But it's that long term. But with him at 25, that is enough though that thing could be doing some cold weather modification as it's driving when it should only be doing it when it's parked in park. So,
like I said, it sounds like air is escaping. The noise level decreases greatly, and the power drops off for 10, 15 seconds, and then it's back to normal power and normal noise.
Any problems with braking or steering at the same time when that happens?
No.
Do you know if that one has an exhaust brake on it? Do you have an exhaust brake button on the dash where it's got a little picture of a brake?
No, there is no exhaust brake on.
Okay. There's ones in vehicles that have that can do that for sure. So
the trick is to get it heard by someone when it happens.
Yeah, so they know exactly what options are on that engine, on that 7.3.
If you know it'll do it every morning when it's cool out, just leave it with them and say, start it in the morning, go drive it 10 miles, you're going to hear it.
Pick up
and tell me what's going on.
You got to get Kevin. He lives on Cherry. You have to pick him up first. Gene, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here at the Under the Hood Show. Let's go to Colorado and talk to Jim. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jim, what can we do for you?
Hi, guys. Yeah, thanks for your show. I really love your show. I've been listening for a long time. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
I've got a 2012 RAV4, Toyota RAV4, 4-cylinder. And about a month ago, the TPMS system was acting up. It was flashing. So I couldn't fix it by putting air in the tire. So I brought it, about a week ago, I brought it to a shop, and they put in three new sensors in the tires, in the wheels. But the technician couldn't get the light to turn off. And so he came to me and said, I can't get the light to turn off. I don't know what's wrong. I'm going to take it. So he took it for a test drive for about 20 minutes, and he came back and said, I still couldn't get the light to turn off. So I ended up coming home with three new sensors, but the light still stays on. So can you point me in a direction to resolve this?
Those things are awful.
That was direct.
No,
we won't do them anymore. We will not do the Toyotas anymore. The only way that people seem to have luck with those is if they use factory sensors only, and then use a factory scan tool to input the codes, the data codes off those sensors into the factory computer. If they're trying to put an aftermarket sensor in there, which they're available all over the place, I even asked the parts supplier, I said, how many of these get returned? He says, most of them. Like, there you go. They're mostly getting returned.
Wow. So it looks like maybe I need to bring it to a dealer.
Yeah, in your case, you're probably going to get the fastest fix by doing that. It's just that the Toyotas, the newer Toyotas, is just one that has been 2010 and newer, right about 11 there when they switched to the different design on them. We used to do them on the old ones all the time. We'd program them, throw them in.
Yeah, and you guys have the one to be able to do it quickly.
We've got everything. We've got the programmer tools. We can program universal ones. We can do tons of stuff, and the Altel one we have that does it, the Dorman one we have, we just don't have problems with any of them but the Toyota and the Lexus. Same exact sensor, and they're just problematic. And when that light comes on, they're only going to last so long. Those batteries last so long, they go dead and things start happening. But in most cases, we just have them say, hey, get yourself a set of, and we have, when we put new tires on, if we see that a sensor won't read, because we can scan it, and we're scanning it, and it looks fine. They're just getting that input into the car. They've just had some difficulties. We'll put 4 brand new Toyota sensors in and get the codes right off them, give them to the customer so they can go in so they don't have to say, well, we're going to charge you $200 a tire to take your tire off and put a new sensor in and program it. It's like, no, here are my 4 codes off my 4 sensors. Just program the thing, and they do it, and then they're fine. But aftermarket, the first thing they say at Toyota is, nope, take them out, put the other ones in.
Jim, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Question came in on chat relating to tires, so let me get on this quick while we're still talking tires. Edwin put on the chat, my daughter lives in Omaha. She needs new tires for a newer Honda Pilot, all-season tires. What brand would you recommend? And I asked that because I think you guys are going to not have necessarily a brand, but you want to make sure you get a decent brand, right? What would you say to that?
Well, you want a decent tire.
Yeah. And I don't know if I just got done doing a deal with BF Goodrich, and they've got a really quality tire that we're using on our Bronco that works great in the wintertime. But they have a snowflake rating on there. And that snowflake rating, I just was going to research that some more. Do you know much about that, Russ?
Yeah, if they've got that rating, that means their winter traction is better. It's not just a typical all-season tire. A lot of those are for studless. You don't need, they're rated. They're almost as good a traction as with that. So when you've got that Arctic symbol on them, that's a winter tire. The compounds are different because what happens is the rubber, just like a garden hose sitting outside or an extension cord when it's cold, gets solid as a brick. And if it's not made of the right compound, the tire won't bend.
Which is like racing. They have different compounds of rubber that they use based on track temperatures, based on wear ratings, but a softer compound, which will sometimes have a little less tread wear, will if it's siped correctly and is the right compound, can really grab that snow and ice, if there is such a thing, a little bit better.
Yeah, they usually have better siping in them. They're designed to grab in ice, but also clear the lugs in snow. So it's a better tire.
And you go ahead, Russ.
Toyo makes a Celsius tire like that. General Tire.
We put those on our
one.
daughter's Camry. Those Toyotas, and
those were good.
That's been a good tire.
Arctic Ice, they make that. Of course, there's
you can go all. That's what I say. You can go all the way in, like with a Blizzak or something.
And those are good traction. I've got a set of those that I throw on mine if I'm going on vacation in an area that's going to be in the mountains and really cold and icy and snowy. But they wear extremely fast. They're not an all-season tire. So if you get one that's an all-season with the mountain rated, the snowflake on the tire, you're going to get a better one. I think we put the Celsius on Chris's cars, on the Toyo Celsius, and that it's just been a very good. I think producer Doug's got a set of those too. And Toyo's never sponsored us, but nothing we've ever done. But hey, maybe they could. But
yeah,
we like that one. It seems to be, I guess, all around. That's one we could recommend, even though they're not a partner of ours. It's a tire that wears well.
It has a decent price point,
and it's got a good grip. And then we've tested it in an area that gets very cold. It'll be 22 below on Saturday.
He just posted on the chat and said, I'm a studded snow tire guy. I can't influence her to winter tires. Which I think that's probably, I mean, when you think about winter tires, that even here where we get the snow and stuff, there is a very specific subset of person who needs those winter tires.
Right.
Wouldn't you say? I mean, you don't have winter tires on all your vehicles.
I don't even put mine on.
Right.
I put mine on when I'm headed across country, usually at Christmas time, and I know I'm going into a mountain region where it's super cold and icy. I'll put them on. But otherwise, if I think I'm going to hit a little bit of snow, I'm sticking with my 10-ply all-season.
People
tires.
ask me all the time. I drive 70 miles a day, and they're like, oh, how does the Prius do in the winter? Fine. It's on snow about a mile a year. Because it just is.
They clean things up so quick. And
most places clear roads, but if you're in some areas, if you're in Colorado or if you're in areas where you get a lot of snow,
and they leave the roads snowpack year round.
Yeah.
Because they're gravel roads and they just leave them snowpack.
If you're in the rural area of Buffalo, New York, you better have some good snow tires because they don't get that cleared.
And a snorkel.
Yeah, quickly.
Let's go to Oregon and talk to Warren. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Warren, what can we do for you?
Well, I got a 99 Dodge Diesel with a 5.9-liter engine, and about a year ago, I'd been running errands around town. I got in it, and it wouldn't start. And so I had it towed to my mechanic, and the next morning he calls me. He says, well, what seems to be the problem? I told him it wouldn't start, and he said, well, it started fine. So he says it's not throwing any codes, and so he changed the fuel filter and whatnot, and I brought it home, and I drive it around and didn't seem to have a problem, and all of a sudden it wouldn't start again, and I let it sit for about 15 minutes, then it started up. And it's an intermittent problem, and I figured, well, I'm not going to have him start changing stuff in it just to see if he fixes it at $2,500 a pop for a fuel pump or lift pump, and so anyway, I figured I'm going to let it completely fail on me where it won't start at all, and then I'll have it towed in, and then they can diagnose it and figure out what the problem is. And finally, it did happen. It failed on me. It wouldn't start. I had to have it towed to my house because he couldn't get to it for a month. And so it sat at my house, and I'd go out every few days, and sure enough, it wouldn't start, which was fine. That's what I wanted. And eventually, the morning that I was going to have it towed in, it started. Well, I figured I've got the appointment set up, so I took it in, and he it wouldn't throw a code for him, but he says, well, we're going to replace the engine crankshaft position sensor. Sits for $125. So he did that, and now I'm gun shy, and anytime I go anywhere, it's probably just to my daughter's house or around. I won't turn it off because I don't want to have it fail again and not start. And I figured, well, I'll give you guys a buzz and see what you can tell me.
Well, if it is the crankshaft sensor, that'll cause it to die while it's running. So when this doesn't start, what's the temperature been outside?
It can be in the summertime. It can be any
in
time.
The summertime.
Summer, winter. One other thing that I failed to mention is that the heating element, when you turn it on, you let it set for a few seconds, and then the engine heats up, or there's a heating element in there or something. That doesn't work. So I leave it plugged in all winter. And so if I want to go out and start it, because it's plugged in, it fires right up. There's no problem starting it. But other than that, that's about all I can tell you.
All right, Warren, we're up against a break here. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll try and see. Oh, Russ has got his thinking face on. We're ready to go. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Under the Hood Show, 866-594-4150.
Prepare to learn something. You're going under the hood.
Welcome back to the Under the Hood Show. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the Hoodie Fan Club at underthehoodshow.com, you could win a hoodie.
Like Rick Kellogg, congratulations from all of us here under the hood and our friends over at Universal Technical Institute. You can find them at uti.edu.
All right, let's get back to Warren. Are you still there, Warren?
I sure am.
All right, Russ, recap us and tell us what we're looking at here.
Well, that intake heater does not turn on until it gets a little cooler out. So if it's, let's say, in the 60s out and it's not starting, it has nothing to do with the intake heater. Now, you can
99 Dodge truck with a 5.9 Cummins if you just joined us.
Yeah.
They're expensive to replace, so if you can find a good used one somewhere, it's a little plate that goes under the throttle body. I had one laying around for a while, and then somebody surely needed it, but they've got two relays that run those. They're solenoids on the back of the engine. It could be one of those or both that have failed, or the actual unit. You can do a resistance check across it and see if you've got any power, just when it's a cold day. Like if it's freezing out and you put a voltmeter right at that heater, right where the air comes in, have somebody switch the key on. If it has no power, then it's probably the relays that are bad. But if it has power there, then your unit itself, the grid's probably bad. But that wouldn't keep it from starting on the summer days. If we're not starting on the summer days, sometimes it cranks and doesn't fire. Other times it does. It sounds like you're not getting fuel into that engine for some reason.
That's what I suspected.
There's a solenoid shuts it off. Fuel solenoid shuts that thing off. It could be that's not activating. You're going to have to.
What's your hunch, Russ, on the crank sensor they put on?
I don't think the crank sensor has anything to do with this, because once it starts, it keeps running. But if it's got a fuel solenoid that's sticking on it and it's not allowing fuel to start, once it allows it and it's running, it may be fine. And then once it's warm and you shut it off, it's probably going to restart every time. But when it's cold, it may be stuck shut. I've seen some of them do that, where they don't open up at first when they're cold. That could be.
I have had it fail on me when it was warm. I mean, I can be driving around town when it first started, and I probably made 4 or 5 different stops, and everything seemed to be fine, and then it would fail. So it was warm when that happened. It was, in fact, the summertime.
But
and 15 minutes later, try it, and it fires up.
But has it ever died just driving down the road on you?
Nope, never had that problem.
Yeah, I'm thinking fuel control. I mean, you might even put a fuel solenoid on it and see if that does anything to it. It's going to take a little diagnosis. It's just going to be one of those, you're going to have to catch it when it's not going, and then hopefully you find the actual problem and it doesn't just start while you're
Yeah, that's so frustrating. You went to such great lengths to have that thing dead, and then
it starts up.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have touched it, even though as much as I wanted to know, I would.
Yeah, would have just left it
for the tow, and then have him tell me, guess what, it started, and you're like, oh!
Warren, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Texas and talk to David. You're on the Under the Hood Show. David, what can we do for you?
Hey, thank you for taking my call, fellas. A long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thanks.
I just picked up a 2014 Nissan Rogue. I got a pretty good deal on it. It does have the CVT. I pulled the dipstick on there, and you can tell that the fluid is still greenish, but it's not a real pretty green. I'm just trying to find ways to maybe make this last a little longer.
It's a drain and fill on that transmission, and it's got a recommended interval. You can't flush them, but drain and fill is important and needed. It should be done, at regular intervals to help keep that transmission lasting longer. The fluid's a little more expensive in those, but it's well worth it to try to keep those transmissions operating at their best efficiency and lasting as long as they possibly can.
So there's no, I mean, other than the cost, that he would be well served to just.
Yeah, and you can do it at home, and a lot of people do.
That was my next question.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing them
Well,
at home. It's just to drain and fill it. Watch the video on YouTube of how to do it, but drain it and fill it. If
it
you
has
don't,
a drain plug, or
yep, it's got a drain plug, and if you don't do it, eventually the transmission will fail just from the wear of the clutches getting in there. I mean, it'll take a long time, or sometimes the CVTs they just fail on their own. But yeah, I would definitely do the maintenance. That's the best thing you can do to try to keep that transmission lasting longer and save you some money.
How many miles are on you went Rogue and bought this thing?
I believe it's right at 130.
That's about
130.
That's about right where it's probably not have been changed, right? I mean,
right.
If there were 40 on it, or 300.
I just put this same transmission in Big Scott's car.
Okay.
Last week, he's putting on every day. He's headed south and back. He puts thousands of miles on that car.
Yeah.
I mean, thousands. It's insane. So we put a tranny in it. He had an oil leak so bad he was running out of oil on his engine.
Oh, no.
Like every week, it was getting low.
Where was that coming out of?
Pouring out the rear main. So
we were able to fix that when you had the tranny
well,
out
the
then.
tranny, he goes, well, I'm not spending that money on that. I'll just keep dumping oil. I'm like, it's going to cost you a lot of oil.
It's getting to the part where
hundreds of dollars.
You're going to need a permit.
Well, then the tranny went out and he goes, well, the car's nice. What do you think? And I'm like, it's got less than 200,000. You put a tranny in it, we'll fix that rear main for like $40 while it's out. He's like, go for it.
Do it.
So
yeah.
CVT, it proves they can last longer, but you got to change that. I would change that fluid.
David, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to David in Oregon now. Did he drive the road to Oregon? And this must be a different.
Traded
David.
it for a Camaro.
Yeah. David, what can we do for you?
Oh, my convertible top goes really sluggish to go up.
Sure. But it's even worse in this cold weather.
I have a 99 Trans Am, and it's got a similar top mechanism in it.
Same thing, yeah.
And it's really slow. I've just kind of gotten used to it, and I just assist it up. I just take my hand and assist it up.
Have you checked the fluid in it?
You use the car.
Yeah. Did you check the fluid?
You know what? I haven't.
You should.
I just deal with it.
Convertible
I guess.
fluid? Wait a second. What kind of fluid?
Well, they got hydraulic pumps.
Okay.
Usually transmission fluid. Some have power steering fluid, but you've got to make sure it's full, because if it's not, you'll burn the motor up trying to run it up, because it's cavitating and getting hot as it's doing that, air in there. But it could be just low. So when it's down, it's got the fluid is closer to full in the pump. When it's all the way up and everything's extended, then the fluid level goes down. So you don't want to fill it full.
Okay, yeah.
Because then it would puke out.
We just had that happen with our cardboard compactor. The guys changed fluid, put filters in it, and the cylinder was all the way down.
And they
filled
all the way
it
out when
yeah,
they filled
it, and then they
So
ran
when
it,
came
and it blew hydraulic fluid everywhere when it blew the seal out of the reservoir.
Yeah, so you want to make sure you fill it with the rams, in, not extended. You want them in all the way.
Because you've pushed all the fluid out. Then you have to
fill it and then operate it both ways a couple times and see what it does. You'll be able to tell if the pump's running clean and fast and bzzz, like it's supposed to, and it's operating, you're good. But if it's bogging down and just...
See, mine sounds like the electric pump is just...
It could be. If it's slow, but check it and make sure it's not
I need to do that. I've never wasted any time on that. Well, hey, thanks for calling, David.
Yeah.
Does that help you out there?
Where's the electric pump at?
That one on the Camaro, I believe, is you open the trunk and it's inside under the package area.
It's on the one. It's on the one.
Call it a package area.
It's kind of on the one side.
Driver's side, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Up underneath there, you got to remove some trim panels, and you'll see it.
Have somebody tap the button so you can hear it.
Follow your ears.
Yeah, follow it to the noise.
Yeah, it's right. If you listen for it, you'll find it.
Yep, your ears will take you right to it.
David, thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We have had, not just because of the cold, but recently, today and in recent weeks, it's been put into very distinct terms for me why you would not want to buy a diesel pickup truck if you don't need a diesel pickup truck. You know what I mean? We had to call not too long ago with a guy who'd always had them, but he was not driving it that often anymore. But he and that is something to really think about. No matter what kind of deal you get, or if you need it twice a year or 3 times a year.
Diesel trucks are much more expensive to own for maintenance, for fuel. Typically, their price lately for years now has been higher than gasoline. So you're going to pay more in the fuel if you use it. You're going to pay more maintenance. You're going to pay more to buy the thing. Sometimes it's a premium of anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000 to $20,000 to buy a vehicle with the diesel, depending on how big a vehicle you get and how heavy it is. There's a lot of things in there. And if you look at trucks now, again, we're not calling them half tons, 1 tons, or 3/4. We're calling them 1,500s, 2,500s. For instance, yesterday, I was looking up a 2024 Ford F-150 equipped with the EcoBoost engine and the towing package for this truck. It was over 13,000 pounds tow rating.
It's incredible.
How many people own a camper that when you put it at 80%, we're talking in that 11,000 range, how many people own an 11,000 pound bumper tow or even small fifth wheel?
Jake.
Yeah, right. But you know what? That truck is getting close to the capacity pull-wise that it could almost drag his camper. Now, it's going to sway and not be good that way. But for the average person who has a 8,500 pound camper, that would be a perfect truck for them to load up with their family and the gear, and it would be safe. And it's a half ton. They can drive it year round, get decent economy when it's not loaded, and be fine.
And it's only $110,000.
Yeah. Well, the price of that one fully loaded was $80,000. But when I compare it to any other Ford, Chrysler, Chevy, they're all right at that $80,000 range for a max tow. Now, if you get into the diesel, it goes from $80,000 to $105,000. And that's a truck that is going to cost more maintenance. It's going to be larger. There's just a lot of stuff. Insurance is going to be more. Something breaks, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So if you don't really need it, why? I mean, I've been looking at replacing a truck or just getting another truck that I can use to pull stuff. I've been looking at the 1,500s because there's no...
Yeah, if you have a car trailer and you go pull a car every once in a while, you got a collector car or something like that, you don't need a... You really can
pull 13,000 pounds. Yeah. I don't need anything bigger than that. And they sell the fifth wheel plates to go in the 1,500s now.
And we've had calls where... What made me think of this, we've had calls where like even somebody inherits it. Their dad dies or they're getting rid of it. They end up with this diesel truck that didn't cost them anything. And still they shouldn't probably keep it.
Yeah, just in the way they're used, it's important still. I mean, they're made great. But if you don't get out on the highway and really just drive, and you're just bopping around town, that's not going to be good long-term for them. The systems just can't clean themselves well enough if they don't get warm.
And the value of them is good enough that if you have one like that and
there's a high demand, you can sell it.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Be sure to visit our website for news, contests, and previous shows at underthehoodshow.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. That's the number to reach us here. You can call that number 24 hours a day. We record the show and do it live Thursday mornings from 9 to 11 Central Time. But you can call that number 24 hours a day and leave us a message, and we can even call you back and get you on the show. Let's go now to Oklahoma and talk to JC. You're on the Under the Hood Show, JC. What can we do for you?
How are y'all doing today?
Fantastic.
Right. Well, I got, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a big damn problem.
Well, let's hope not, but well, you're already giving this a good ending.
You're in it, yeah.
Good ending and beginning, maybe.
Well, about 3 or 4 years ago, I blew my motor because I took it to a shop to get an oil change, and they were geniuses and didn't put oil back in it.
Oh.
And by the time I figured it out, it was too late to put it on the shop, so I'm out of pocket $5,000 but I ended up getting a used motor for $5,000 when I did a little research after that, figured out I could have got a brand new one for that much money. But I'd have had to build it myself. But anyway, so now that I have that newer motor in there, every time I go to start it, it won't turn over, and I have to turn the key about 3 times most of the time, and every once in a while I got to go about 10 times to get the truck to start. And I've replaced the starter, and on those they have the plastic clip. The ground wire is a plastic clip in there. Well, my dad's a mechanic, but he don't work on the newer stuff. But he put the new starter in for me, and when he put the starter in, he hardwired the ground wire to it so that plastic clip would quit melting.
Gotcha.
So I know I think I got way too much juice flowing through it. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, we've put a number of starters on this model of truck, and we've also had to you have to hardwire that as well sometimes for that exciter wire on there, because they've had some issues with them, corrosion and things in there, instead of that little dumb idea of a plastic clip that didn't work really well. That can be the thing, but might just be a bad starter. We don't see much other.
I've replaced the starter several times, and since I've hardwired, I was burning about 2 starters a year. But since I've hardwired that starter in there, that starter's been in there over a year. But I can't imagine I've had 4 bad starters, one right after the other.
Well, if that wire was not making a good contact, that can cause, whenever you get an issue where you've got resistance like that, you'll get voltage spikes and you can damage things. So you could have damaged the coil on that starter easily by having that not connected. So now if it's connected and working, it may be trouble free if it's hardwired now.
I just want to back up a little bit for us, JC, just to confirm the problem you have when it wouldn't start is a no crank. It will not spin the engine over.
Yeah, I still have that problem with the new starter. So I still have that issue with the starter hardwired in. That's why I think I know it's something else. I just don't know what it is.
Well, start by you put a voltmeter on the exciter wire down at the starter, and then you'll have to put one on the big wire as well, and then hook it to a good known ground, the engine block, because it's grounded to the engine block anyways. Hook it there, and then when it does not crank, look at the voltmeter. Do you have power, the main battery power at the main voltage, which is always there? Is it there when you're trying to crank it? If it goes away, we've got a loss in that wire. But if it goes away on the smaller one, on the exciter wire, then we're not getting the signal down there, and we've got to work our way backwards on that, because it uses a starter relay, and then it uses a neutral safety switch in the transmission, telling the computer, hey, we're in the neutral gear, and that's a problem there. Now, those transmissions have to be programmed in those trucks when they're put in, and if they swap that engine out and did some programming or didn't do some programming, there might be something to that where it doesn't know if it's in a park position.
Okay.
You might try to put it in neutral when it's not starting and see if it starts, or moving the shifter around while you're holding the key and see if that does it too. It might just not be getting a signal that it's in a startable gear.
And I had this happen to me once. Out on the road, had a tranny go out, and good dealership, knew the people, good people. They put a tranny in, and after that, I started having problems electrically, and we come to find out that they didn't get the ground wire hooked back up on the back of the engine to the transmission. They got a kind of a double nutted stud back there, and it wasn't tight.
It was a body ground.
Yep, and so it was causing problems. And so I would also retrace their steps where the engine was put in. It means it wouldn't matter whether it was a used engine or a new engine. You got to do the same stuff. And if they happen to not have a wire tight or missed a lug and it's hanging beside there and you got a ground problem, definitely could cause you to have some of the challenges you're having. If this has only happened after the engine went bad, I would retrace my steps on that.
We had one yesterday in a hybrid Yukon, and it wasn't starting for us after we put the engine in. And we knew for a fact we didn't touch several areas of this vehicle, so we weren't looking at them. But when it came down to it, what was causing it not to crank for us was that a connector that's hidden behind another module under the hood, when we moved the wiring harness around, we found out that the lock that holds the connector down was broken off of that, had been for a while. But as we wiggled the other harness, just pushing it out of the way normally, the connector popped open and it wasn't seated 100%. So it was as simple as just pushing the lever down and then it worked. So even though we weren't working on that component, it caused that to fail. So anytime you do, we've done thousands of engine swaps. So when we do these things, we sometimes have problems that we induce that we have to go diagnose and fix.
JC, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Hope we got you kind of pointed in the right direction.
Or just directions to think.
Yeah, absolutely. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Mississippi and talk to Johnny quick. Johnny, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Okay, sir. I got a 2000 F350. I'm glad to be on your program. Try to find some answers. Let me say that first. But I got a 2000 F350 7.3. I did everything to it. I was just at a service station and it cut off. And I couldn't figure out what it was, so I went in and I changed the camshaft sensor because it did that one time before with that problem. Well, it didn't work then, so I went on and put an IPR valve in it. Still didn't work, so I went on and I put an ICP in it. Just throwing money at it, just figuring.
Making donations.
Yes, sir, making donations. And I still hadn't been able to get it started. Now, I'm getting ready. It's just so cold here right now, and I'm not going to be messing with it. But I'm thinking now to pull the fuel tank because I believe it's in the sending unit. All of my fuses working well, my relay is working well, my instrument cluster is working well. I can sort of tell, I did some little voltage testing to my knowledge anyway. I don't know as much about it, and so that's why I was listening to you all on radio. And I said, well, let me just call. Maybe you can help.
We can. We're going to answer your call, but we're running out of time for this hour, so we're going to carry you over to the after show.
Yeah, stay right where you are, Johnny, and we'll get back to you.
We're getting to the end, though, so if you're one of those listeners, like we said, who caught this on radio and you missed it, you can catch the last of this by watching us on YouTube.
You can watch our show on our YouTube channel.
There you go.
You can see Russ's luxurious winter plumage. And Shannon's, you have some nice... You have it too.
It's just not real.
Get thicker in the winter, so they make it.
No, it's the same one. Same Chia Pet.
Let's get back to Johnny's problem.
Johnny with a 2000 F350 7.3 liter diesel that's cutting off, and he's spent some money on this thing already, and he still isn't got it running.
It could be a problem in the tank on that sending unit if it's pulling air in instead of diesel fuel. But instead of pulling the tank and doing all that work back there, you could separate the fuel line up under the hood where it's coming into the fuel filter and put a clear hose in it and see if you've got fuel there. If it's pulling good, clear fuel there, then you're okay. If it's not, you got the problem's back below. It could be a leak, pulling air in it. Could be a problem in the sending unit because it's pulling air there where the sock's connected or something like that. I would go with the clear fuel hose route first, just to make sure that on the suction side of that pump on the engine that you're getting good fuel up to it. You've already replaced the pressure control regulator and all that, the valve. It's possible that high pressure oil pump is failing on it. That high pop, it might be not supplying the pressure it needs. Usually those will be a no crank. You go to crank it and they're not full of oil. It takes longer to fill them full of oil and crank up, but it could also be a failure in that. There's many things that can happen.
If you got no oil pressure, you got no fuel pressure.
Right. The first thing we do is we look for fuel delivery. Do we have good, clean fuel with no air in it getting all the way up to the filter on the engine? That's where we look with the clear sight to see what's going on.
So do you guys have a little piece of clear hose that fits on the pressure side, or how do you?
No, on the suction side.
So you can see it
not
going
to work on the pressure side.
I say, how do you do that?
Nope, not going to work on the pressure side. So we use it on the suction, but we have to get new hoses all the time because we get a piece, we throw it away, we get another piece, throw it away. Different kinds, different sizes.
Okay, all right. You say that all the time. I've always thought, do they have just
fuel makes them
Is there
hard
a
to burn.
hose sitting around that is kind of the
Just keeps
kind
of tap it.
Jake, where's that hose? Where's it at?
I don't know. You used it last. Yes, I did, and I don't know what I did with it.
Does that help you out there, Johnny?
Yes, sir, but I didn't mention to you all when I talked at first. I went in and I put a lift pump up, fuel pump, I guess, under the seat in it.
Yep.
Under the frame, on
Good
the frame
idea.
rail.
Yep, good idea.
And I got out and I pulled the fuel filter out and I checked it. And every time I would turn it on, that PCM in there, it'll
Fill
for about 20 seconds. But no fuel came up.
There you go.
It was gurgling and spitting like that, sort of. I don't know if that makes sense, but
It does. Then
it
you've got a
wouldn't- no
leak.
fuel
You got an air leak then.
wouldn't fill up. Yes, sir, and that's what I'm thinking. I was telling
Oh.
the guy that put me on hold that I believe, and I've been studying the YouTube and listening to you all, and I was looking on that sending unit, it's a little filter that fit in the bowl.
Yep.
I mean, in the fuel tank. And they say it have a problem with that coming off. Well, what I think happened, I'm just saying this, I ain't trying to, I'm just saying. I don't never let it get below a half a tank before I refuel it. Well, it started running sort of bad, and I said, well, let me burn this out because I figured maybe it was contamination, water, or something was getting in the fuel tank. And what I believe happened, now that I listen to you all and reading and studying what I can, is that little spring on the back fell off, and when I ran it low, it sucked air.
Very possible.
Yes, sir.
And that would.
So that's why I say I'm going to take the tank off. I ordered another one because ain't no sense in me taking the tank off.
Right.
And if I got a problem, then it's there, then it's down for a while. But I called you all, I think it was last week, and I just been doing research on it, just trying to figure out what it is.
Once it gets to the point where if it's full of fuel and it's running, it might be okay. But if it gets to the point where it gets low enough where it pulls a lot of air through there and clears that line out, it may never start again. So this is where, it's a good idea. Need to get that tank off of there.
Next step, he's right on it.
So he is right on it. He does have air in there.
Yeah.
Something not working.
Johnny, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. And let us know if you get that fixed. We would love to hear that.
I appreciate his diligence. I mean, I don't like the fact that he made donations of those extra parts, but he's looking, he's learning, and he's going to get this.
Mm-hmm. Johnny, thanks very much for the call. All right, let's talk a little bit about this cold weather. I think we're all learning a little bit. This has to be a bit embarrassing because here's what we've been learning. The entire country has learned in the last few days that you have to precondition your Tesla to work in this cold weather.
The entire country has learned it.
All these Tesla owners sitting there with dead cars, now the entire country knows that they just didn't set it up right.
And they also, we've also learned that 98% of all the people that are giving the advice about the EVs have never owned one, never will own one, don't care about them, don't have a friend with one. They're just giving their advice, especially the major news organizations. So, but overall, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that people are reacting to this cold like it's never happened before, no matter what they drive. But
every news station has done the story: should we warm up our car or not? Or do you need to warm up? We've had cars for 120 years, so if we are still asking that question, you got to expect some learning curve.
There's new people coming into the picture.
That's true.
It's not just you and I that they're talking to.
No, I know, but still, I mean, if we're 120 years in and not everybody knows it.
Yeah,
then for sure on a Tesla, you're not going to.
I'm not getting any calls or emails or anything here on the show from anyone like under 30. So they should know by now. We've had a cold snap in their driving
lifetime. That's fair.
But with these EVs, so I do have a cousin that owns one of these things, and it says right on the dash, cold weather expected. Charge your car. It told them. The Tesla said, charge your car, because it knew that it was going to be very cold coming soon.
So let's kind of go back and recap this. There have been a lot of EVs, or some EVs, and it's a substantial number, that have bricked themselves, although...
Because they were dead.
Because they were dead. And there is, on the Tesla at least, there is a procedure that you were supposed to take care of before this happened, right?
It was called charge your battery. Let's just talk about batteries in general first.
There's
So batteries, as temperature decreases, resistance increases. That is exactly how your gauge on your dash works for your engine temp. If you take the wire that controls the gauge, the sending unit wire, and you ground it, the gauge goes up. You unground it, it goes down. In a typical circuit. That's how these thermistors work. So a battery, if you take a battery that is cold, the colder it gets, the harder it is to put energy into it. It's also harder to get all of that energy out.
Me too.
Yeah, you too. So you need a warmer battery. But here's the trick. Charge it fully while it's warmer. You can get more into it. You're going to get a little less out of it, but you've got more to start with in the beginning because it's full. It's like taking your coffee cup. If I know I'm going to have a reduction in this coffee cup by 20%, wouldn't I want to start with one that's completely full, because now I'm going to get 80% of the total volume out. But if it's half full and I've got a reduction in charge where I can't get any more than that in it because it's cold, and then I'm dropping 20%, then I'm really low. Plus, guess what happens when your car is very cold, or anything that uses batteries? If you've got a car that relies on 100% of its heating coming from an electric grid to heat, you're going to lose energy right there by your heating being on. Air conditioning they use heat pumps in a lot of these cars, but when it gets that cold, the heat pump won't work. So they have to use an electric grid to heat the car.
That's why our electric buses in our district have an auxiliary heater.
Yeah.
That's run by diesel fuel.
Yeah.
So that it's a small price to pay to keep the range of the electric batteries.
And what happens to me with my, we can defend it all we want, but I'm just telling you the basics of how these things work. What happens to me with my diesel vehicle when it's this cold? I lose probably 30% of my fuel economy. Why? Because I fire that baby up an hour before I drive it because I want it to run. And when I'm going down the road, the cold weather just sucks the fuel because it's so cold trying to operate.
And you're using a winter fuel that isn't as efficient.
Right. It's going to burn more. Now, I can go fill it 100% full at the gas station, but with an electric vehicle, you cannot. But if you've got a car, I can't tell you how many people I've asked with electric cars, do you keep your car fully charged? And they say, well, no, usually it's at about 50%. Like, why don't you make sure it's always full? Well, I don't really need to because I only drive 50 miles a day. And, as long as it's above half, it says I got like 130 mile range, and it's been just fine. It's not a problem. Okay. You got a car that's half charged typically. Now let's say it's at 40%, and you say, well, I can get to work and back tomorrow, and maybe I live in Chicago. And you get to work and back and you're fine. Well, today you woke up and it was 10 below zero and the wind was blowing, so it made sure that you reach that actual temperature even faster, because wind chill does not affect a car, but the actual temperature does. And if you've got wind blowing, it removes the heat fast enough that it gets down to that actual temperature quickly. So now it's cold, you're driving and you realize, oh, my car is running low very quickly and it's dropping, and I got my heater blasting on high, my wipers are going, my defogger's on in the rear, my radio's going. I better go charge. but you go to charge it and it's almost dead. And the chargers are saying, we can't charge a car that's in this cold. You should have charged it before, like yesterday. So we're running into a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of that. Yeah, there is a difference in an electric car. If you don't like it, don't buy an electric car. Buy a good old-fashioned gasoline one. We talked earlier about why you shouldn't buy a diesel if you don't really need one. Buy a gas car. They'll start until about, 200 below zero or something, where fuel freezes, whatever.
I was going to ask that
It's
earlier.
very cold. It does freeze. Fuel freezes, but it's...
What did we do?
Very
And
cold.
I just don't recall
We'd never
because
see it
it
freeze.
wasn't a factor for me. In 1980, when it was 15 below, what was the... I didn't drive. I walked to school, so I didn't have that
They started. If your car was in good tune, Chris, it was fine. We had a 1980 Bronco we used to plow snow up at our shop.
I forgot about that.
Yep, and we sold it
Silver
to a
one
guy
hit in the back, right?
who drove it to Mexico with a snowplow on it. He just wanted something to, I don't know. Anyways, that thing
sounded real fishy.
Yeah, well, it was. He
It's
says
the wrong direction.
He says, I'm driving it back to Mexico, and I need a vehicle, and I need something that'll tow, and this is what I'd like, because down there, these Broncos with removable tops were, sought after. So he says, I'm going to take the plow off when I get down there. But it was like a permanent plow. You couldn't remove it without unbolting. It wasn't like a quick removal.
Sure.
And it was all hydraulic, not electric. But that thing had a straight six, carbureted engine. It could sit the entire season without the battery being charged because it had zero drain, not even a clock in it, no computers, like nothing. And you could go out, you'd pump the gas pedal about 4 times and hit the key, and it would fire right up and run when it was 10 below zero. You let it warm up a little bit because it didn't want to drive without dying until you ran it about 4 or 5 minutes. But it started every time. My parents' cars, they all had remote starts. It was called me and my brother.
Yeah.
It's like, here you go, and they'd hand us the key, and we'd walk out and unlock the door, start the car up, and then lock the door with the other key and close it, and that was our security system in Detroit. But
and plugged that block heaters. I remember we ran
we didn't
extension
have
cord
those
out the
cars
door.
were new enough that they were a year or so old. They didn't need block heaters to start, but we did have neighbors that had block heaters in their cars. But as they got older and compression lowered and carburetors got a little dirtier, they needed a little help to start. They needed to be a little warmer. Battery warmers, block heaters, things like that. But cars started pretty good. Nowadays, cars start pretty good too, as long as they've been taken care of. You've got to have a car that's in a good state of tune. Batteries. So many dead batteries this week. And a lot of them we replaced were 5 to 7 years old.
And people are surprised they needed one.
Go visit autobatteries.com. It's a partner of ours. They'll give you so much information your brain will hurt about batteries and how they work. And it's great. It's like, well, why should I replace my battery? It seems to be working okay. Okay, it's 7 years old. It's maybe not failed today, but it's going. It's got enough age on it. The plates are breaking down. It's not an AGM. That's why AGMs are so much better.
You do it when it's cold. You do it when it fails.
Summer heat breaks the battery down. It wears the battery down. Winter, your oils are thicker because they're cold. They're harder to move. So you've got a bigger load on the engine, on the starter, and it makes that battery that's got less. We already talked about it. We've got less available current because the resistance has increased through the cold. And click, it's going to fail. I had to put one in mine not too long ago.
I've used that in my own life. I used to work out real hard in the summer, but once Russ convinced me that it was the hard work in the summer that tore you down in the winter, I was like, you know what? I'm not doing it anymore. I'm just going to.
That's what it was all about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I worked hard last summer, and I tell you what, this winter, I'm feeling it.
You must be loving this weather where you don't have to go out and do anything.
No,
and
I'm
finish.
getting really nervous because I've got a permit I've got to renew because I'm not going to get it done because it's a lot. Everybody hits an age, and you guys, if you hadn't hit it yet.
You went extreme though, Russ. You did something that 98% of the people I know, 99,
don't do it when they're young,
would not do it, period.
Yeah.
But
right, Chris?
Yeah,
I've either damaged myself or I've hit the wall. I've got to the certain age where it's okay. I'm not physically capable of doing some of the stuff that
you
I used
fill
to.
a hole that is
It's only 200 yards of dirt.
by hand. It's
Only
with one
200.
person. That's
Yeah.
usually a team. It's equipment.
Well, I got some help in the end. I had a brother-in-law
It's a
come over to
government.
help pack it down.
Exactly. That was extreme.
My wife, packed it down a little bit too. I had her running the packer, rocking around.
She weighs
while I
about
was-
90 pounds.
Yeah, and I was shoveling by hand. So, and then the retaining wall, we carried that by hand. And,
Regardless, the point is
But
that you wear yourself out in the
everything-
summer.
Everything wears out. Yeah, and it's harder on things in the winter. So people, I don't think if they haven't changed by now, they never will. A lot of people are just on the mindset of when it breaks, I'll fix it. But then they fix more things. It's like, oh, my battery broke. Is there anything else I should look at while it's in here? So I don't, because I just learned what it's like to sit on the side of the road and get a tow truck.
Yeah.
So should I check anything else? Do I need anything cleaned? Oil changed?
There's one thing different, though, Russ, when you and I give these explanations. We tell people go to autobatteries.com, get all this information. There are people that will do that, and they want to do that. But there are also people that they don't want to know all that. They just want their car to work.
Mhm.
And so they just want you to fix it, and they want you to tell you, okay, kind of what happened. Okay, that's enough. Is it going to happen again soon? No. How much is it going to cost? And they won't look into it. So, but the more you can understand, it helps the decision-making process, where someone else might have their day consumed by the things that they have to look up all the time and be on YouTube and looking up. This isn't that. And so we kind of assume that people want to know that. They don't want to know.
I'm looking up less all the time
I think-
as I get older, and I just want you to tell me. Like in this case, we'd say just go buy an AGM battery, and you've got lot less trouble.
Trust a professional at that point.
Yeah, me, I don't need to look up near as much as I did even 4 or 5 years ago. I just say what's going to fix it, and
it doesn't make sense.
And I'll try to keep that in my mind for when it breaks.
Doesn't
down.
make sense.
Here's where I think that advice, the go look it up or pay attention advice, comes in handy for me, because when a battery dies, the first battery I had die, I was like, we just got this vehicle 5 years ago, the battery, it should be fine. The battery was factory. It was 10 years old when you switched it, and my
Windstar?
yes,
Yeah.
and my plugs and wires had never been changed. So the car ran perfectly for 10 years before any issues. But like now with the battery is a perfect example of, oh, hey, my battery died. And I'm able to go, you know what? I've run it down a few times in the last couple years. So even though this battery is whatever it is, 3 years old, I'm able to realize that I caused this. And to get a new battery isn't because there's a cabal out for me to buy more batteries. It's because of something that happened, or that I know 5 years goes by. That's a pretty good run for a battery, or 10 is certainly a good run for a battery. Learning that can get rid of some of the frustration later. And it makes you feel better when you go in and they say, oh, your battery's dead. And I go, oh yeah, it probably is. I killed it a couple times, with the Pontiacs.
Yep.
That's exact. That battery.
Yeah, that's a Solstice. That was like,
Yeah.
no way I need a battery.
Yeah, but I knew it had run dead a couple times. So, yeah. So that's, I think, does come in handy as far as that goes, for sure.
Yeah, it's just we're here for you. If you don't want to know any of that stuff and you just want to wait until it breaks, you are welcome to call.
Thank you.
The Under the
Oh,
Hood
you
show.
meant our list. I thought you meant me. I
No,
was
call
like,
Under the Hood.
that's
You can
awesome.
call Chris at home too if
Yeah,
you want,
go
and he'll
ahead.
say, "Call us during the show next week, and we'll take care of that." Yeah, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, call us, and we'll help you out while it is broken. That is why we're here
During the show, though.
during the show.
This is not a 24-hour invitation.
Shannon, are you awake? Can you come out for a
Yeah,
second?
No, I can't. And I'm not going to.
All right, that'll do it for the after show. Thanks, everybody, and go check where the thing is for the Roach video if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Roach video.
Did we put a link on our Facebook page to it also?
Oh yeah.
Didn't we?
Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. They're all linking back to it.
We sent it out with our zine that we print on the mimeograph machine. We run those every month.
Zine. Chris has had 3 new words of this show that are just.
Did you guys do
charcuterie board was good.
Charcuterie board.
Yeah, we actually talk about that every
Yeah.
once in
And
a
the
while. 'cause-
cabal.
Yeah, the kids talk about the charcuterie boards. It's kind of a thing.
Those are fantastic.
They're
When someone else
they're on
makes it.
they're on a comeback for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
They've been around forever.
If
I know,
someone
but
makes
they're definitely
one,
on a comeback.
they're like a sandwich.
What are you pointing at?
Doug's
Producer
pointing at
Doug?
something. Is your computer broke?
You
Look
spilled your
at that
coffee.
computer.
Is there a message?
Oh, I see.
Look
I
at the
see.
There's
computer.
another question?
Oh, we're looking at the computer.
Can we save it?
We have a question on the chat. You want to answer it?
Is it easy?
Where can I get an under the hood charcuterie board?
This one is easy.
Don't know.
I'm gonna
You think it's
guess-
easy?
I think it's
Let's
easy.
do it then.
96 Chevy Tahoe. This is from Sue. 96 Chevy Tahoe 1500. I want to put it in 4-wheel drive. The lights just blink. It will not kick in.
Ooh, yeah.
What do you think? She says, could that be the actuator, or what do you think it could be?
Yeah.
Yeah. Most likely the actuator has failed on the transfer case because you're pushing the button, the module is signaling for that thing to move, and it's flashing while it's waiting for it to move, waiting for a signal that it has moved. It never moves, so it stops flashing because it says, nope, can't do it.
Maybe you can get lucky and tap it with a rubber hammer and, while you're pushing the button, and maybe it'll take off again if it's like stuck because they just haven't been used.
And switch it a few times.
Yeah, try
Not
it.
too many because it'll heat up and it'll break. But,
Yeah.
Switch it, like, say, 3 times and then drive it around. Switch it a few more times.
Try it. And then there's also an actuator in the front differential that can go bad. That has to pull it into 4-wheel drive on the front axle.
Yeah.
So that's not likely though. It's more they do go bad, but
no, because that'll switch into gear, and it.
Oh, that's right.
I got one. I got one out there.
you wouldn't get a light on the dash, would you?
No, it would be in gear, but you wouldn't be going anywhere.
You
It
wouldn't
would
get your
just be
4-wheel drive
spinning.
action. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
because it's got the hot heat up thermal thing in the front,
Yep.
and then as you got a little newer or had it adapted and switched, you got the electric.
Yeah, it's 90. Yeah, 90. What year? 96. Yeah, that's not.
I put the Dorman Products actuator, front axle actuator upgrade kit in my 96 3 years ago. That thing was amazing because I had tried it on my own to make my own thing. Didn't really work. So I bought theirs and I said, how's this work? I didn't really study the wiring diagram real quick because it was easy to put in. And I went, that can't work, but it did. And then later I learned, I went, oh, I understand what they did. They made it simple, but it's instant. The second you put it into 4-wheel drive, you move the lever, it goes click, click, and it moves it in. You don't have to wait for the thermal thing to heat up. You put it in, and anybody who's got the older, like a 96, and you put it in, you look down and you see, like, if it's a lever on the floor.
Hey, you're waiting.
You wait like sometimes a minute or 5
Seems like
minutes. If it's really cold and really worn out, it may take 5 minutes of driving for that thing to finally kick in. If you're on the side of the road and you get stuck or in a driveway, you want the thing to kick in. So that Dorman's Products actuator kit was pretty sweet. So now, like this morning, put it in 4-wheel drive to back out of my driveway, put it back in 2. Drove down the road. When I hit not the gravel, but the bad stuff coming in here, right back in 4-wheel drive. It's instant, in and out.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that might be a thing too that you need on your 96.
I didn't hear anything of that because I was wondering. You said
You're still thinking of charcuterie boards.
no. You said rubber hammer,
He's hungry.
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, oh
Deadbolt.
sure, a rubber mallet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, why is it a rubber mallet and not a rubber hammer? And it's not a metal. You wouldn't have a dead blow mallet. You'd have a dead blow. What's the difference between a mallet and a hammer? I mean, we know the difference if you held it up, but what's the actual difference?
I believe, and I could be totally wrong, but like I'll make you think that I know 100%.
Okay.
When I don't.
Go for it.
I believe that because I'm thinking all the way back to the Model T and my neighbor who said we need to use this brass mallet to drive this pin so we don't damage the pin because the mallet is malleable. That's what he told me. He said the mallet will bend and give way a little bit as you're striking this like a rubber mallet.
Mm-hmm.
It moves
Yeah.
and it doesn't damage what
I like the vein you're on.
what you're driving. He called it a mallet and said it was malleable. And a hammer would just stay solid like you're hitting a nail. It doesn't bend. There's got to be something to
I'm
that.
going now. I got it.
Because that guy was a Ford engineer in the 20s. He knew everything.
I searched it. And first of all, the headline that popped up, it says, click here for more. But the headline that pops
Don't
up
do
is,
that.
a hammer and a mallet are both tools used for hitting.
Duh.
And then the rest is cut off. So now I'm going to click more, show more. Like a hammer, the mallet is also used for hitting objects. One of their main differences is that mallets have only one head and are commonly made of wood or rubber. Since a mallet is made of softer material, unlike a metallic hammer,
Malleable.
it is used to hit something more gently and not crush or dent the surface. But a wooden mallet would be like
same thing. Wood,
like
soft.
Gallagher. I mean, it's soft compared to a
smash a watermelon.
All right. Oh, there's a video I can watch. Let's see if there's more.
The engineer John Locke was a genius.
He was.
There's a website about it.
And your whole life you were instilled with correct knowledge. There's so many things that people get the wrong knowledge at that age, and that's their truth.
If you want a picture in my head of what John Locke looked like 100%, there was a TV show called Lost that was on.
Sure.
Yeah.
You look like that, John Locke?
That you looked exactly.
No way.
When I heard that name,
What?
John Locke,
No
I went,
way.
huh?
Reincarnation?
It just made me think back because I hadn't thought about him in years. At that point, I didn't have the Model T back yet, and I was thinking, John Locke. Yeah, no, he was a bald guy like that, and
It says here the basic difference is a mallet won't damage what it's hitting.
So a rubber mallet actually makes more sense than a rubber hammer.
Right. And it would, I mean, you could still damage some things. If you smash your finger with a rubber mallet, you're going to damage your finger.
But if they're going at that actuator, I hate to say going at it, with that 96 vehicle, you strike that with a rubber hammer at a medium strength, you're most likely not going to hurt it.
Right.
No, or a gentle tap with a hammer.
Yeah. But if you hit that with the same swing with a hammer, you're going to break the housing.
Sure.
It's going to be
magnets
inside are going to shatter.
Okay.
You're wanting to tap it hard enough that all the way inside, if you were watching the animation where they show it would move the brushes enough to make contact.
Just kind of go
with the armature.
I recently saw a very good video about how a car battery charges.
Yep.
And how the
electron flow.
Animated, animated, and I can't remember where
was that on autobatteries.com?
Was it on our video screen when you came into the shop playing? They show animations on that all the time.
I don't know.
I had nothing to do with them.
No, that isn't it. But I did see how it says like here's the charger, and it has to flow through here, and then they line up on the other side.
You got a picture on your Prius dash, charging in and out.
Right, but on this one it showed how.
Oh, the positive and the negative electrons and how they line up.
Nope.
As it's charging.
It showed up how a battery charges and how it can have more power when you charge it a certain way because the electrons all come in and line up. Whereas once you start driving, it pulls like a scan disk on a computer. It pulls off all the power and puts them back in order, so it's in this order, and then as it uses them, it gets a little bit varied again and a little bit.
You know, if you run a battery completely dead, you can charge it up backwards. I've seen that happen a number of times. Battery's 100% dead, and then somebody goes, "Oh, battery's dead in this car." Like the lights were on for 2 weeks, and it was cold out. So they hooked the charger up, but they hooked the charger up backwards, and they fully charged that battery, and they got a problem.
Huh.
I had a car come into the shop one time, and they had taken the battery out,
have to turn it.
charged it, put it in the car, and they killed the car because they hooked it up backwards. And they said, "I don't know. I took it out and fully charged it. I don't understand what's wrong." I said, "Well, you've ruined your car because multiple circuits are dead. And the battery's showing 11 volts, but when we hooked our jump pack to the battery to give it a little more, it sparked like, what's going on? I hooked them up backwards. Oops, what did I do? No, positive, red, negative, black. We try that again. What's going on? Get my voltmeter out and hook it up the right way, and it said negative. I went, what did you do?
Real quick before we leave, I have some very big news that I just remembered. And it's why I forgot that we have to go. When I get home today, there will be a temp gun waiting for me.
A temp gun?
You ordered one?
I ordered one.
Your weekend is complete.
I don't know if I'll be here next week.
You're going to be checking everything.
Yeah.
Keep a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
You'll be in here next week aiming it across the room.
I could just, my poor wife. I just can't.
Is she hot or cold?
I just don't. She's going to go through a lot this next few days, man.
The cat.
The dog's going to be like, don't point that at me.
Hey, I get something you should get.
Dan, just hold the temp gun right there. Hold on.
You start with that. Next, you're going to want a thermal scanner.
I want a FLIR.
Jake's got a thermal imager that we use for some stuff on cars.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's great for like electrical boxes, this and that, but you could also use it for your wife. Nope. You know, why is it blue? Why is it blue? Right? Yeah, that's what I'd be in trouble. I'm talking about my wife.
They were
not
saying,
your wife. You can't say, keep your mouth shut.
At the recent seminar I was at, they
no,
were
it's good for you.
Russ, they were talking about thermal imaging cameras for
they're great.
For electric battery vehicles that have been in accidents.
Yep.
Oh, sure.
So you can scan the batteries to see if there's any hot cells or any damage caused.
They are invaluable in cars. We use them for cylinders. We just point at the engine and go from one end to the other and go, yep, they're all red. Wow, why is that one yellow? Oh, it's not as hot as the rest. I've got a misfire. You know, it's and a thermal imaging camera was like sci-fi stuff just 6-7 years ago, but now it's like, no, they're affordable.
You can get them that plug into your phone.
Yes.
They have iOS.
I just got one for my phone that you can use to scan walls and stuff. And it's pretty cool because it can find rodents in the wall.
You have one?
Can it find cockroaches?
Can I borrow it?
Yes, I really want to borrow it.
It's the Wallabot.
Okay,
and you can scan the wall, and if there's roaches, there's mice. If it's moving,
you
it'll
need to
show.
Take it on vacation next time.
It'll show on the image.
That van would have just blew up.
You can scan your suitcases with it and see if there's any roaches crawling around in them, Shannon.
There's not.
All right, that'll do it for the Under the Hood show. Thank you, everybody.
No, half-hour after show.
Click subscribe and the thumbs up. And
all the
that
good stuff.
Yeah, come on, just do it.
Hey,
do it.
ask
Be like
your
the cool
comment.
kids.
If you've got car questions, just comment on any of our videos and ask a car question.
And we'll bring it to the show.
I'm not going to answer your email. I'm going to answer your car questions asked on YouTube.
Look
Careful.
Yeah, no kidding.
You don't need an account?
We've talked about this.
You don't need an account. Well, I don't have to answer them all, but I'll try. But you don't have to get an account on YouTube like Facebook. You just go to YouTube and ask a question.
Well, to comment, you have to be logged in, don't you?
No, I left it open.
Did you?
I allow all comments. I deleted the profanity thing. I got that on, but anybody can ask a comment.
Oh, I was thinking you had to have a login in order to comment on anything on YouTube.
Only on the live video. While it's live, comments for subscribed people only during the live video, so we don't get a bunch of garbage while we're on. But if you want to ask a comment while you're off, just ask.
And should I check out this hot site? Should I go check? I should click on all those, right?
The Under the Hood show one.
Check out this hot site.
No.
I appreciate all your comments.
Garrett's and drivers are doing this to save big on their insurance.
Yeah. All right. See you later. Thanks, everybody.